December 11, 2012. Um, Ron Paul is a man of truth. I watched most of the debate last night. I pray and hope for guidance in this video. I've been aware of Ron Paul since the 80s, probably about the early 80s, and have known that he's been a pure constitutionalist since I studied with Cleon Skousen in the mid-80s. Cleon Skousen was a wonderful teacher of the Constitution. Much of Glenn Beck's material has been taken directly from Skousen, and I'm aware of that by occasionally watching Glenn Beck and watching what he's taken. I'm not a fan of Glenn Beck because he speaks about, let's say 80% truth, maybe 85, 90% truth. But when he cuts down people like Andrew Jackson, who was a wonderful opposer of the central bank at the time, it shows that Glenn Beck doesn't get it. And I distinctly remember when Glenn Beck was against Ron Paul. And I remember when we were kind of a minority, Ron Paul, 2008. I did a video of him here in Salt Lake City. Ron Paul is a man of God. He's a consistent speaker and upholder of truth. He stands for truth. Great, great American. And the fact that the mainstream media always tries to push him to the side and everything shows you that we don't have great media anymore at all. And most people that are intelligent realize that the media is a joke. That's why they turn to the internet or use independent thought and just sift through the crap like CNN or Fox News and all the stuff that just pablum, let alone just all kinds of programs. A lot of us have had that figured out for years, but Ron Paul has just consistently voted for true principles, and it's about principles. I watched Mitt Romney. He was my stake president when I was at Harvard. I remember seeing him in the congregation and discerning. I had just been taught a lot by Cleon Skousen, and at that time, president of the Mormon Church was Ezra Taft Benson, who some people would consider ultra-conservative, as Ron Paul, as myself, and so I remember. Anyway, the people, a lot of the Mormons at Harvard were liberal. I'd have to call him liberal, and Mitt was pretty liberal. Subsequently, his record would show that as governor of Massachusetts. Extremely competent. It's just funny that people don't understand what a great businessman he was and is. They have no clue. It's just these little one-line perceptions, A guy like Herman Cain doesn't even compare to Mitt Romney to the business world. And of course, Mr. 1.6 billion, Newt Hyena Gingrich, private sector experience, touting, bilking the taxpayers for $1.6 million as private sector experience. You just have to laugh. But anybody that loves the Constitution knows that Newt Gingrich is not a constitutionalist. I remember buying the book by Heidi and Alvin Toffler about a new civilization with a foreword by Newt Gingrich. And so I've had him figured out for, decades and decades. And it's just sad to think that people would actually think he's conservative, and he claims to be the most conservative, which is hilarious if there weren't actually people taking it serious. But the mainstream media's promote, Newt. And then I bought Time magazine. There's my old stake president, Mitt. Wow, why don't they like me? Well, establishment doesn't like Mitt because they can't completely control him as they can with Newt. Newt will do anything, any of their bidding whatsoever. Doesn't love the Constitution. But the only way Mitt would make a really great president is if he sat down and took lessons from Ron Paul for maybe 2 or 3 months and just listened and loved the Constitution and understood it. But you can't do everything. Mitt was a great businessman, but doesn't understand and defend the Constitution. What's an obvious glaring thing on that? The foreign wars. Washington, no foreign wars. Just the Monroe Doctrine. The Americas. Keep communism out of America. What are we doing with all these foreign wars, bases in 183 countries? It's insanity, it's horrible. It'll all come back to haunt us, and it is coming back to haunt us. I remember people would give me Rush Limbaugh ties and Rush Limbaugh books. It's like, Brent, you're conservative. No, I'm a constitutionalist. Rush Limbaugh isn't. He doesn't even know what the hell's going on with the Federal Reserve. And so, it's just like with Glenn Beck. He's a joke to people that really love the Constitution. And here in Utah, there's all these Mormons. Glenn Beck, he might save it. save it. The guy doesn't, he was cutting down Ron Paul just 3 or 4 short years ago. Doesn't understand the private central bank. Maybe he does now. It's that finger in that political wind. How do I go? So the debate last night, I finally turned it off. It just, if you understand truth, if you love the Constitution, which was inspired by God, it's Ron Paul, period. We're at a time when evil dominates and rules. Secret combinations rule. We've been warned about this over and over and over and over and over. If you want to get a full load of how bad things are, kind of how bad things are, just listen to Alex Jones. PrisonPlanet.com or Infowars.com. It's not Fox News, which is so liberal. It's like 100% socialist. Even if you don't understand that, just read the Communist Manifesto. Read the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto and then watch Bill O'Reilly. Or watch these guys defend everything that's on the Communist Manifesto. They have nothing whatsoever to do with George Washington. At all. And it just irks me, and it's just so sad that there's people that will watch Fox News and think that it has anything to do with the Constitution. It's just pathetic. Sure, they'll touch it sometimes. Like Glenn Beck, 80% of the time, thrown in with a 20% lies. And it's up to you to figure that out. It's up to you to figure that out. But it's pretty obvious to people that will read the Constitution. And if you read the Constitution, Ron Paul is obviously the only candidate. I mean, it's just completely clear. Meet the press. Here's, I guess, Broder, I just like, it's pathetic. Who's the true conservative? Gingrich or Mitt? They're both ultra-liberal. If you really want to get down to it. Are they different than George Bush and Rush Limbaugh, Mr. Russell Paper? No. It's all establishment agenda. Foreign wars. More lives taken. Abrogation of individual liberty. Ron Paul's been consistent his whole time in Congress. Never voted for an unbalanced budget. Never voted to raise congressional pay. Never has taken a government-paid junket. Obama, you ought to check that one out. Voted against regulating the internet. Ron Paul's the real man. He's a man of truth. It should be obvious to anybody that understands the Constitution. But the reason that it's too late. It's too late. If we would have tried to turn this around back in the early 80s, maybe we could have done it. But now with the trillions and trillions of government debt that have been foisted upon the American people, if you understand finance, it's over. Even Ron Paul couldn't fix it in the White House. Even Ron Paul couldn't fix it. The entitlement programs. I can't even, because even some of my viewers, like, they take money from the government, As a principal, I've never taken any money from the U.S. government. No unemployment, nothing. Rather live in my car or in a sleeping bag under a tree than take money from the U.S. government, which is stealing it from somebody else. I learned that from Cleon Skousen, Ezra Taft Benson. It's a true principle. But now, more than half of the nation takes money from the U.S. government, so that's why it's going to tip. And it's over. It's like a teeter-totter, and all of a sudden it'll tip. Ron Paul, at least it'll be marked down in heaven whether you supported Ron Paul or not. And that's what's important. This is a battle for men's souls. The country's finished. Financially, it's over. Politically, it's over. We've sold out. The Constitution's been shredded and wiped out. Then the Mormons aren't going to save it. That's been a folklore thing here, that the Mormons will rise to save the Constitution. Well, how can you tell? If 100% of Mormons were voting for Mitt Romney, Freudian slip, for Ron Paul, they'd be voting for the Constitution. But most people here in Utah, not only some will actually vote for Obama, but they voted for Bush, and they would vote for Mitt. Mitt just needs to sit down and study the Constitution for several months. So that's the sad state of affairs here in this country. And to think that possibly Newt Gingrich, that complete New World Order shill, has a chance at the presidency. Just got to go fishing. Gone fishing. Ron Paul or bust, but Ron can't fix it now. So Thank goodness that Jesus Christ is coming a second time and there'll be a cleansing. Because man's not going to fix it. Man's had 6,000 years to try to run things. He's messed up all the time. And with what was bequeathed to us by the Founding Fathers, we've messed up with this great experiment. It's ending. It's going to end very badly. The United States will descend into anarchy, and thank Heavenly Father that He has a wonderful Son that this time won't come down and be sacrificed. He will come down with His sword bathed in blood. The house will be cleaned. This earth will be swept clean, and we'll have 1,000 years of peace. Why? Because we'll have people and leaders that follow true principles. Truth will prevail, but not for a few more very horrifying years that are at the doors. May God bless those that love truth, and may your offspring survive into the millennium.